So now, Nicholas Krantz. Another wonderful Monday.
It's black and white.
What's going on? What's going on, Kenny? We are live on Facebook and YouTube. Comment. We got a big show. We got a big show today, Kenny. We got a lot going on. So hopefully
really
people will
stressful.
tune in. Huh?
Very stressful.
It's stressful for you?
People don't realize how stressful it is to be a technical director and try to get this show together with absolutely no experience. And we're trying to get this thing started. And for the last 45 minutes, there are all these glitches in the software that we're trying to use. And this is all supposed to be fun. And yet we almost were going to kill each other in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to make this easy. We're trying to make this smooth with the sound and the video and the ability to change screens and to make this more enjoyable for the people who watch. So we are really trying to put some effort into this. And I look forward to making it better each week. And yeah, this is pretty cool. But,
So like we're like kind of like rah rah. No, this is what you did last time.
Oh,
This is what you
God,
did.
it's crazy.
Rah, rah.
It's crazy.
And we're going back and forth. And then I sit here, and then all of a sudden I just think, well, there were times when Mike and the Mad Dog didn't speak off the show for like 2 years. Like Opie and Anthony didn't speak forever. And you sit there and you think, you guys got the life. How can you be so mad? You're talking sports. Like, how can you be mad at each other? Not that we're at that point.
yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, but we were like, "Arr, arr."
Yeah, for a moment there, it was pretty tense.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate what must go on behind the scenes with people who actually know what they're doing.
Yeah,
And here
crazy.
we are trying to make this happen and have fun with it, because that's really all this is about, is to have a little bit of a pastime and have some fun with this. And that's awesome. It's Monday, beginning of a new week. We're going to talk about football, obviously, and whatever other sports you're going to talk about, I probably know nothing about. But I want to ask you what I usually ask you about, and that is, how are you doing with the exercise regimen?
So went to the gym today, and going 4 times a week. Was on the treadmill today. That's a big head.
What are you doing at the gym? What's your regimen now?
So I'll walk like a half a mile, run a mile. I'm going to try to build that up, get some cardio in. And then I do a little, I do light weights, more reps than, weight. Yeah.
How long are you spending there?
Good hour and 15 minutes.
Dude, that's a long time, an hour and 15
Killing
minutes.
Killing it. Feel great. Came home, ate a salad.
That's fantastic.
Salad and a hamburger with no bun.
Look, I got to tell you that you motivated me to do something as well. So I've been trying to work out in the mornings as well, trying to get my bench pressing in, my shoulder flies are getting done. I'm trying to get on the elliptical in the morning and stay in shape. I'm trying to do a little bit of boxing in the morning.
Boxing.
But I'm trying to do what I can do. And whatever I can do to get in better shape. You motivated me at the beginning of the year, Nick. So I'm looking forward to losing some weight, staying in shape, eating healthy.
Yes.
And waiting for spring to get out there and play some ball.
All right. I'm happy. If I can motivate, they say if you can just motivate one person, it's all worth it. I motivated Kenny.
Hey, listen, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Staying in shape.
So the number to call in, if you want to call and if you have a comment, a thought, question about what we're talking about, number's 845-366-2095.
Hey, do you have a pen?
Again,
Do me a favor, write that down.
week
for
2
me.
with the pen.
I'm forgetting things.
845-366-2095. Also, if you have my cell phone number, you can just call that. We can patch it in there also. But we got a big show, Kenny.
It's a big show.
Got a big show.
What's big
Got
about
a big
it
show.
today?
Obviously, we're going to run down through the NFC Championship Sunday, or the NFL Championship Sunday, with the games that happened over the weekend. I'm giddy. I'm so happy right now. But second half of the show, we're going to talk about transgender athletes because that seems to be a big topic now with Title IX and the executive order that Joe Biden signed. And I think it's a discussion. I think when you have issues and topics, sometimes you kind of have to have a discussion, have dialogue, whether that's comfortable or not. If somebody agrees with your side or disagrees, I think those things have to happen. And I'll never shy away from an open discussion.
Are we
as
having
long as
that
it's respectful.
discussion now?
No, we're going to do that the second half of the show.
Okay.
Second half of the show, we're going to have Joe Claus. He's going to call in and kind of discuss that, being a principal out in California. So as long as he can get out of his meeting, we're hoping to have him on, because he was a great guest the last time he called in. And I think kind of that perspective of an administrator in the schools, I think would be great. If you want to comment, if there's anything you want us to, if you have a comment, type it in. Even though my comments aren't showing up, Kenny.
So that's an issue on your Facebook page?
Yeah, it's just an issue in general.
What'd you do this morning, Nicholas, after you went to the gym?
I went to work.
Where was work this morning?
Coffee shop, Uptown Coffee.
Uptown Coffee.
Yeah, so she does, by the way, and before we get into the sports, she does this, she does what she calls Man Crush Monday. And she puts a picture of some guy up there, usually a police officer. Just a little bit about the person, whatever. She's asked me for a year if I would do it, and I've always said no, there's no possible way. But today I did it, and she gave a shout out to the podcast, and the size of my face, God. So just give her kind of a little bit of a shout out. Went up there and did that, even though it was against my better judgment. I really didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway.
Uptown Coffee.
Uptown Coffee.
At 288 Wall Street, Kingston, New York. I know
Uptown
exactly
Coffee.
where that is. That's across from the Supreme Court of Ulster County. I've spent many a very early morning there, having a cup of coffee, getting ready for court in the morning.
By the way,
it's a great place.
Not a paid advertisement at all.
She's just very cool.
Yeah. I got my Upstate Original hat on. Shout out to Nadine. Got some good stuff there. Uptown Originals. If you're from New York, she has a great business, building a great brand. Hats, beanies, shirts, all that kind of stuff. That's not a paid promotion either. She's just fun. And her son, Jimmy Ferraro, helps out with Jake and his throwing program and strength and conditioning with his arm and stuff for baseball, so that's good. But big show today. I don't know if you could see my jersey for all you Ranger fans out there. Devils off to a great start, so I figured I'd wear my Devils jersey.
By the way, did you open this up and unlock this video?
Yes, it's unlocked.
Just making sure.
Yeah. But I got my Devils jersey on. Jack Hughes, another big game. I think he's 19 years old. He's like 5'11", 170 pounds. Killing it this year. Just wanted to rub it in my Ranger fans' faces, like Sal Guido, Steve Peruso, Kyle Tachman, all you guys. It's been we had another, just in the sports world, another tragic death. I mean, Hank Aaron passed away. Tomorrow I got my Kobe Bryant little thing here. It'll be 1 year tomorrow that Kobe died. See, when athletes die, there's kind of like, it's different, right? It's like if you're a movie buff, your favorite actor when you were a kid, or a musician, and the music that, people say music got them through a difficult time in their life. Sports is kind of like that with me, right? Growing up, not a lot of money. The connections of sports that I have with my friends is second to none, right? We always argue and discuss sports. The connection I had with my brother who's passed away, that was what we had, right? Like, he's in Connecticut, I'm in Kingston, and, every day before the Giant game, we would talk and text. And unfortunately, he was killed by a drunk driver the night before, 5 years ago, the start of the NFL season. So it's like, right, that day, and then it was odd not getting that text and all that kind of stuff. And the connection with my son, right? Loving sports and being a Kobe fan, and us going to Kobe's, last game in Philly, the first game after he announced his retirement, taking that trip, taking him out of school, staying at my friend Damon Schufeld's house. You kind of have that connection. And with Hank Aaron, you got Don Sutton, Tommy Lasorda, and now Hank Aaron. And it's if you're a sports fan, it's tough, right? That picture right there, and there might be another one with my kids in it. I don't know if you have that there, but
I wasn't sure you wanted me to have your children in the picture, but I did put this picture up for a reason, because you have this history of visiting places that are of significance with respect
Yes.
to sports, and so I thought it would be nice to talk about this one. If you could you can certainly explain what it is and what's the significance of it.
yeah. So a couple years ago, I went down to Atlanta for work, and I went to see where the old Fulton County Stadium was, which is not there anymore, which has been leveled, and next to it is the Olympic Stadium where the Braves used to play, which is now a college football field. But they have in the parking lot of where the stadium used to be, they have it all bricked out where the infield was, home plate, the pitcher's mound, the warning track, and all that stuff. So you stand there and you kind of think like this was like a 3-deck huge stadium filled with people, and then they left a piece of the fence up as a like a tribute, right, to Hank Aaron, piece of the fence that where he hit the home run 715 with the big wall in the back, and it's really cool when you stand there and you think, like, if you love sports, like that's huge piece of history, like huge piece of history.
I got to ask, where is it now? I mean, I see it in this photograph that's
Still there.
This is the area of the wall that represents Hank Aaron's 715th home run.
That's the spot.
And I understand we're talking about Hank Aaron because he passed away this week. This is the spot of the old stadium. Where was this?
That's Atlanta, Georgia.
And what's there now? I mean, this is just an abandoned parking lot?
It's a parking lot that's next to where they built the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Stadium. So in that same parking lot right there, the Olympic torch is there and everything.
I got to tell you, it doesn't look like it's all that.
Well, here's why I was angry. It was not maintained at all. Like, there's weeds. Like, if you look, like, even around the back, there's weeds growing on the fence. There's weeds growing on the side. I mean, that's a huge piece of American history because, I mean, an African-American breaking one of the most storied records in all sports, the all-time home run record at the time, going through, extreme racism and death threats and those kinds of things.
And they can't even cut a yard for the
And
guy.
you can't even just kind of weed whack it.
I mean,
You can't.
Wow.
Like, pull a few weeds.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Like, I almost went and bought a weed whacker just to do it one time.
Can you imagine if you would have done that? That would have been a nice thing the way paid forward.
I know, but I didn't have time. It's
didn't-
hot out.
you didn't do it.
It was July
You
in
didn't do it.
Atlanta. It was roasted.
That's funny.
Right? And we were there because my son was playing in a baseball tournament, so we all went down, and it was, it was great. Took him to where the Mercedes Dome is. It was actually right after riots and stuff kind of happened, like, at that time. So there was windows blown out, like the CNN buildings, windows were broken. The College Football Hall of Fame, that's kind of right there. They were replacing windows. Windows were all busted out. It was just a surreal, you know what I mean? It was weird. July this past summer in Atlanta. Yeah, just and Tommy Lasorda. I know we talked about that last time, but I got a quick story about that. So apparently, well, not apparently, I went and met with a potential client years and years ago.
Sound should be back. Whenever this first camera goes out, we lose sound.
Masters. So anyway,
So the sound should be back pretty soon. If
So-
not already. I think it's back.
yeah. So he says, you know Tommy Lasorda is. So I said, yeah. And he's like, here, he plays his back. It was an answering machine, and it's a voicemail from Tommy Lasorda. And he's like, hey Jim, I just want to call you and wish you a happy birthday. I know I missed your birthday yesterday. I was busy, and I didn't want you to think I forgot about you. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to Tommy Lasorda wish this guy a happy birthday. And it's not that he was great. He even said, I'm not really good friends with the guy. Like, I met him like really once or twice at an event. He goes, but he was so nice to me, and we made this connection. And, you know, anytime I needed advice, I could call him, and he would call me back instantly. Like, just, you know, and you hear these stories, and you don't really put together the human side of a lot of these athletes, right? I think it's just a cool little story that, you know, Tommy Lasorda went out of his way to call this guy, and he was very apologetic because he was a day late on his birthday. Kind of cool.
It's very cool. Do you have a story of your own?
Nope, no, because none of these people even that are watching this are gonna watch it. Even call me on my birthday.
We can't even get a phone call.
I am a piece of shit though when it comes to these things, birthday things, because I don't wish anybody a happy birthday on Facebook.
That's why they're not calling us today. Hey,
but let me tell you, I check everybody that wishes me a happy birthday, and I take notes if they don't. Who does it?
God, I don't.
I'm just kidding.
I think it's really cool that Facebook sends me that note for the calendar and says, "Hey, it's John Doe's birthday." Like Mark Castiglione had a recent birthday.
I know, and I feel bad because I didn't even text the guy. Jeez.
CeeLo had a birthday. I made sure I said, "Hey, man, happy birthday." And I tell you, when I do it, even though you're not really doing much when you think about it, you're saying happy birthday, right?
Yeah.
You're not going out and buying a card. You're not making a phone call. But the fact is, I am thinking of that person in that moment, and I'm hoping they have a really good day, and they enjoy themselves. And I hope that to the people that are watching this and listening to us this evening, feel free to give us a call at 845-366-2095.
That's good stuff right there, Kenny.
Oh, I didn't really say much. There's no content there. That's all.
But you said something, so that's.
Well, I'm trying to give you a break before you get into your next topic, which I assume is going to be some, real serious sports.
Mason called us a horrible friend. I'm not I got to be honest, I'm not really a great friend, I don't think.
I think you're a good friend, Nick.
Because I look back and I think, man, I could have been so much nicer to people.
What makes you?
It's not that I'm mean. I just feel like I should be more outgoing and wish people happy birthdays. And
you can change that really quite easily.
I can change.
Change that really easily.
You could change. I could change. Yeah. Everybody could change. So you want to talk about these games here or what?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. Let's start with Buffalo and Kansas City. Now,
I have to ask you, why are you starting with that game first?
Because I want to save the best for last.
Aha, okay. I understand.
Oh, we could talk about the Devils.
No.
Okay.
I don't even expect to talk about the Devils. Right. Our 1 hour is going to be done well before
we
talk about the Devils.
We'll go long. You just go to bed. I'll wrap up.
I'll just sit out.
All right, Kansas City and Buffalo.
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
A lot of hopeful Bills fans out there, and they had a great season. They played well. Josh Allen played great. I think he played better than anybody else could have really expected. But Kansas City was just too much. Too much. I mean, we watched the game together, right?
We did, and it was tough to watch.
It started off great for the Buffalo fans.
Yeah.
Right? Field goal, fumble, touchdown.
Yeah, it was 9-0, real quick.
They missed the extra point, which sucks. But 9-0, you jump out to a 9-0 lead like that, they're giving you points, right?
They're giving you points. You think Buffalo's hot. You're thinking maybe Mahomes has something going on from the concussion. You're thinking that maybe you would think the Kansas City Chiefs, it was a moment too big for them. But then again, it's not, because they were in the Super Bowl last year. And just like that, it's 9-0. And I'm thinking, wow, maybe Buffalo, it's hot. And then reality was they weren't. They weren't hot at all.
Yeah, I mean, it was Mahomes was just too much to handle for them. Right? I mean, Jared Allen at points, I mean, I know he was only sacked, I think, twice, but he was running for his life. And a lot of times he was running straight backwards. I mean,
Josh Allen took
some
big sacks. I don't understand why he's not getting rid of the ball. And I thought when he then started running, as you saw in this highlight right here, I said, that's not a good sign. If he's got to run for his life and get the first downs, that's not how you're going to win this game.
Like this right here. I mean, this was just not good.
Yeah, being dragged back 15 yards.
I mean,
the game was terrible.
Yeah, it just really wasn't. And the game was, 38? I got it written here. 38-24. I mean,
it wasn't close.
It wasn't even as close as the score indicated. From the if you bookend this game, right, you would think Buffalo would have won. But if you would have watched any part from halfway through the first quarter to all the second quarter to third quarter and halfway through the fourth quarter, Kansas City just dominated them.
Yeah.
They couldn't stop Mahomes. They couldn't stop Tyreek Hill. That guy was running all over the place. And what I don't understand is, Mahomes was scrambling and just making some insane throws. There was one later on here that he makes while he's kind of going down and kind of just flips it, and he throws it probably like 20 yards in the air on a complete laser to somebody.
It just seemed he was able to move the ball pretty easily, and it seemed like his line was protecting him, that he had plenty of time, that he was making passes over the middle. I don't recall him making any long passes, 30-yard pass. But he's picking them apart.
There are too many weapons.
Yards,
they could not match
yards.
up. With Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, they could just, they simply, it was a matchup nightmare. And then you also have to think you have to contain Mahomes. And the running back. It was just impossible.
That's a good point. They did kind of contain Mahomes. I didn't see him running much at all. But then again, he didn't have to.
And there was another
to move the ball.
Yeah, there was another play. A couple things. Kansas City did that play where Mahomes kind of rolls out and then flips it to Kelsey in the middle and he goes in for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And they talked about it on the broadcast, and Buffalo still couldn't stop it late in the game.
It was misdirection.
Right.
It was unbelievable.
And they talked about that in the film room, and they never ever they could not stop it. And then Buffalo ran a play where they rolled out a running back and then tried to throw a screen the other way, a little almost like, I don't know if it was a naked screen, I don't know how much blocking he had, but it was almost like a misdirection with a screen, putting a guy in motion. They tried it twice and it just was terrible. It just didn't work. Number to call in, 845-366-2095. If you have my cell, you can actually call that too.
I got to tell you, there are times where I'm watching, public, not that I sit around watching podcasts like we're trying to do here.
Yeah, you do.
Because that's kind of lame. I wonder how lame we really are. But
Cares.
that's what it is. We don't care. But no one's calling. And then I remember listening to shows like Howard Stern, and he would just call and harass and do pranks on the small town podcasts and videos, and we can't even get someone to call and prank us.
Well, that's fine. That's because they know if they call, they better come strong. That's all I'm saying.
All in good time.
That's right.
So that was useless.
But
that game was terrible.
That game was a matchup nightmare. Just terrible.
You know what was good about that game, Nick? I'll tell you what was good about that game. The food.
Oh, wait, well, yeah, the food was, of course, was good.
We had some ribs.
That's right.
Well, you didn't have a diet last night. We had
I
some
started
ribs.
the diet. Even I've been going to the gym, I started the diet.
We had some buffalo chicken dip.
Yeah, it was great. Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese ball. It was carbohydrate.
Oh,
heaven.
killing it.
And then today you were starting the cleansing.
Well, I didn't start any cleansing
Oh,
yet.
you didn't?
No.
Today
Well,
was
I
the
drank
day.
a bunch of water.
Drank a bunch of water.
Yeah.
That's
Like-
good. That's good.
I didn't really eat much, but I gotta try to get the shit out of my system. Wow. I gotta flatten my belly, lose this here,
Yeah, you're too young.
then make a lifestyle change.
You're too young, Nick.
I know. Yeah, but in Kansas City or Buffalo going for a 2-point conversion at the end of that game, and then they got the onside kick. If they go for one, it's a 2-score game. Going for 2 makes no sense, and then they go for 2, they don't get it. Now it's a 3-score game with 4 minutes left. Can anybody explain that to me out there?
Why don't you explain it to us?
I don't have an answer. I think if you kick the extra point, now you're down by 16, which is 2 scores, right? 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions. If you don't get it, you're down by 17. There's no 3-point conversion. You have to score 3 times. Makes no sense. I think it was and look, Mahomes is better, right? Mahomes is a better quarterback. It was just a matchup nightmare, and even on the coaching side of the ball, it was a complete mismatch coaching too. Andy Reid, far superior. Buffalo's got a lot to learn, but it was just between the experience and just everything that goes along with it. I thought it was a disaster. Let's just get rid of that game. Buffalo's got a lot to build on, but
Yeah, the game that we really want to talk about is the Green Bay Tampa Bay game. Even though we don't really break into all the X's and O's, but That game was exciting.
But here, for
That
all
game was fun.
Yes, for all the Tom Brady haters.
You're laughing at them?
That's right.
I don't really know if there are that many Tom Brady haters. In listening to the major media podcasts and shows throughout the week, I didn't hear a lot of hating on Tom Brady, which is interesting. Maybe it's because he's not involved in any cheating scandal for once, as some folks would say.
Oh, let me tell you what. If I got to hear about Tom Brady cheating, or if I have to hear about the refs fixing the game for Tom Brady. By the way, he played Aaron Rodgers, who's another guy who gets just as many calls. Okay, so if you're going to come at, if your train of thought is, oh, there it is, another Tom Brady, refs doing it for Brady, the refs giving Brady, you're crazy. You're crazy, and it's and the comparison of saying, well, look, it was Tom Brady and not Bill Belichick. So now that Tom Brady went to the Super Bowl, is going to the Super Bowl, that means Bill Belichick, his accomplishments are not as good. What do you think about that? Could the argument of, well, oh, God, I guess it was Brady. I guess it was Brady.
Look, you have to acknowledge that it's Tom Brady that helped Bill Belichick get those teams to the Super Bowl, and so it's Brady. And yet Bill Belichick is supposedly the best coach of all time, right?
He's still the best coach of all time. Right? Here's my opinion on it. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback. Belichick is the greatest coach. Tom Brady sees the writing on the wall that this team is not going to be as good. This is going to start to become a rebuilding year, and it's going to start a rebuild for the Patriots. How fast they can do that is going to be is yet to be determined. But you can't compare the two after 1 year to see who it really was, right? Because Tom Brady left. He didn't go to the Jets and win, right? He went to another team that he could step in and win immediately. And he did. Kudos to him. But now you're going to compare him to another guy who's a head coach who now has to go through a rebuild. It's not a fair comparison.
Would Bill Belichick have won this year with Tom Brady? Would he have gone to the playoffs? Is that what you're trying to imply?
Say that again?
Do you think Belichick would have went to the playoffs with Tom Brady in the AFC East this year?
Yes.
So then it's Brady, not Belichick.
Would he have gone to the playoffs? A wild card, yes, probably. But
That's all
not,
he was this year.
But that's not to say.
Boom.
But
He was just a wild card.
I understand. But if we're gonna now shit on Bill Belichick, I think it's unfair. I don't think it's a fair comparison right now. Now, if Bill Belichick coaches for the next 10 years and wins nothing, I'll come back on here in 10 years, hopefully 30 pounds lighter because I've been going to the gym for 10 years. And I'll say I was wrong. Yes, there are a lot of Tom Brady haters. A lot of Tom Brady haters. I love Tom Brady. I love him. I love to watch greatness. That's why I watch Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. That's why I watch Tiger Woods.
Do you think last night for the NFC game, do you think that the refs were not calling a lot of penalties on both sides? Do you think there was any type of leaning towards Brady in not calling some plays against his team? There were some folks who were with me watching that game that thought the refs were being one-sided towards Brady's
the
team.
Fix is in?
And that the fix
The
was in.
fix is in, everybody.
That there weren't enough calls throughout the game. And then at the end of that game with the shirt pull, with less than 3 minutes left, I think it was, that shirt pull should not have been called on Green Bay.
Well, a couple things with that. Number one, the penalty at the end, if you're going to pull a guy's jersey, and it happened in the Kansas City Buffalo game where a guy got his jersey pulled and it was an immediate flag. If you're going to pull the jersey from behind and the ref can see you pull it, it's going to be a flag. The defender has to know it. That's a bad job by the defender if he's going to pull a jersey like that. The other thing is, they threw the flag. That didn't cost you the game. You were already losing, and you didn't even have you were losing the game without the ball. You didn't even have possession. Right?
Yeah, but that's
okay.
We get it. It was a pass interference against Green Bay.
So
question is, should it have been called? And some folks didn't think it should be called. And I said, look, you have to call that. I wish I had a picture of that. And I'm sure we'll see it when we play some highlights. That play had to be called, and that cost them the game because it gave Brady the first down. It allowed them to eat up clock. Green Bay was running out of timeouts, and ultimately Green Bay just, what is it? What would the words be? Self-imploded. They destroyed themselves with some bad play towards
Well,
the end
yeah.
of the
I mean,
game.
the play at the end of the first half, you let a receiver get 5-6 yards behind you with a second left in the game. We don't want to talk about that, right? We don't want to talk about that. There was no fix there, right? What about when Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions and 7 passes? There was a point in that game, out of 7 attempts, he threw 3 interceptions. And Green Bay did nothing with it, basically.
Right. He threw 3 picks in 3 possessions.
He threw 3 picks in 7 attempts. 7 passing attempts, 3 picks, and they didn't do anything with it. So we're going to sit here and cry about one little tug of the jersey. I mean, come on. That is your big conspiracy theory?
How were you feeling when you were watching that game? I've mentioned in the past that, when someone like Aaron Rodgers has the ball, you just think he can score. You think he's going to be able to score. You're confident that Aaron Rodgers can score. When Tom Brady has the ball, you're confident that Tom Brady can score. I was just watching this game. I don't have any skin in the game. I don't really care who won. But I want.
No,
to see
you're
Tom
one of those.
Brady
You're one of those
win.
POS fans that when the Jets are well, you break out your Jets hat. The Patriots are playing well, you break out your Brady jersey.
Exactly. So, how did you feel when Aaron Rodgers had the ball? Did you think he was going to just catch up, win, and overtake Brady's team, or did you ever feel confident that Green Bay was not going to catch up? Because I was nervous.
I always think
every time.
I always think Green Bay has a chance. The problem is to kick the field goal there late in the game made no sense. You can't kick the field goal and then give Brady back the ball with the lead. Normally a lot of people try to wait till they get to the end and then try to use clock so they don't give Brady the ball back with too much time. You gave him back the ball with the lead. You got to try to score a touchdown. You got to try to play to win the game right there. Right? You can't do that kind of stuff. It just didn't make any sense. I mean, that's 2 bad coaching decisions. 2 bad coaching decisions in both games. That I don't know if it cost Buffalo the game, but Buffalo after that, not going for 2 and not kicking the extra point did get the onside kick. Changed the whole complexity of the game. Green Bay not going for it there changed everything.
All right, let me ask you this then. There are times when you and I are watching a game that you will say, look, you got to go for points. If you can have an opportunity to put points on the board, you put the points on the board. So here, with 4th and goal towards the end of the game, you're coaching the game and you're thinking, well, I've always been telling people you got to put points on the board, but this situation is different. So why was this different?
Well, it's different because you're not in the second quarter. You're not in the third quarter. Right? You're in the 4th quarter. And you have arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game who has a pretty good offense, and you're not giving him a chance. That's why it's bad. That's why it's bad. And Tom Brady, look, I put this out there earlier. Tom Brady is now tied with the great Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees for one NFC championship title. How about that?
I think that's funny.
Go Tom Brady. And look, and as Brian mentioned on here, it's not, there's no issue with legacy, right? If Tom Brady loses the Super Bowl, it does not tarnish his legacy one bit. Not one bit. It does not tarnish his legacy. He could lose the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. What's his
How do you think
his
Aaron?
10th Super
By
Bowl?
the way, did you hear whether Aaron Rodgers made any public statements following the game about not having the ball?
I did not see.
So he's been quiet. He's been
He's-
respectful.
he's
And
been
I thought he
quiet.
was getting along with his head coach all year, right? He had a great season. We're taking a
Yeah.
phone call right now.
I'm going to see if I...
Hello?
Abby.
Hello?
Abby, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
You're on the air. This is-
great.
This is my daughter who wanted to be on the podcast, Abby. Just give us real quick your take on Tom Brady.
Honestly, I just describe him through words. Good for him because everyone thought he was overhyped and he brought the Bucks to the Super Bowl. That's all I really have to say.
What else do you have? That's it?
I don't really know, man. I just feel like he really just showed everyone what he could actually do. And it made me so happy that they won just because of the fact that so many people doubted him and thought that he wasn't as good as everyone thought he was. And he just did that, and it made me happy.
What about Joe Girardi? Are you still mad that Joe Girardi's not the Yankees coach?
I will never get over that. Ever. Ever. There's a video, like, from how long? Like 2-3 years ago of me saying how they should renew Joe Girardi's contract. And then, like, 2 weeks after you posted that video, he, like, wasn't the manager anymore, and I still haven't gotten over it.
I know. And actually, if you go onto the YouTube channel, you can see that video, and there's actually a point where you say Joe Girardi leaving is like a loss in the family. We lost Uncle Joe.
I didn't know that Abby was such a big baseball fan, but she does play competitive sports outside of school, right?
Yeah, softball. I mean, we softball, travel softball, the Rebels.
Abby, what position do you play?
I mean, I could play. I mean, if I was put in any position, I could play it. So my primary ones are probably pitching, catching, and shortstop.
And does your dad give you some good tips throughout the season on how to be a better player? Talk.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about your older brother? I hear he's quite the ball player. Does he help you out?
No, he just asks me why I don't do certain stuff.
So do you listen to him? Do you answer his questions and listen to him, follow his advice?
Sometimes. It's hard getting advice from your brother because, like, whenever it's coming from an older sibling, you always feel like they're yelling at you and you always feel like they're mad at you.
Yeah, if I bring up Jake in any way with Abby, even if it's just as an example to show about something, it's a complete disaster. I mean, people just lose their minds.
It's to the point where every single time a conversation is brought up about me, somehow it gets turned into Jake.
Abby, how old are you?
I'm 12. I forgot my age for a second.
Well, I think it's fantastic that you came on, joined the show, and
Yes.
you had a lot to contribute. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ab.
See you later.
Oh,
We're really struggling.
Nah, I just wanted to bring her in because she was giving me a hard. I'm gonna be honest. She was giving me a hard time, and that she hasn't been on yet. She actually wants to come in.
her.
She wants to come in and sit here and do maybe 5 or 10
You
minutes.
should let her.
And I would let her.
That's funny.
I'd let her call
And
in
you
a
caught her
second.
off guard. She had no idea you were
Yeah.
calling. I think you should
No,
do that with
she
your
had no
wife.
clue.
Your wife had some pretty strong opinions about.
Well, she sent me a text message while I was here that I don't put shit in the dishwasher, and she was really mad.
Really?
You're really mad.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Look, you got to take a phone call from Mr. Clausy or what?
yeah, he's gonna call in.
He's going to call in. So
He's gonna call in.
are we going to talk about?
I mean, I just want to put a bow on this Tampa Bay thing.
Okay.
And whoa. We'll just take him right now. Hey, Joe, can you hear us? Hold on 1 second. There you go. You should be in now. Can you hear us?
Yes.
What's going on? We're speaking with Joe Clausy.
How are you?
You're on with Nick and Kenny. We got your picture up behind us. And we're just talking about we're just kind of wrapping up here with the Bucks game. Did you watch any of the NFL over the weekend?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I was prepping for the show in case you threw some curveballs at me, so I
Prepped more than I did.
I definitely watched. And of course, Tom Brady. I mean, growing up a Giants fan, you can't help but to not like greatness. I appreciate what you said before. Like, I love great athletes. I love to follow athletes who have changed the game since I've started watching it, and so I definitely agree with. He's up there. He's definitely, you could say he's the GOAT, I guess.
Yeah.
And the pairing with Belichick, you can't disagree with that one either. I want to throw in really quickly that I agree with Abby. I also cannot stand Aaron Boone, as I do believe he is riding the coattails
Yes.
of one good hit that he had in his whole dang career, and yet he ends up a manager. So all that being said, I agree with her, and I think Girardi would have definitely served the Yankees better during the last, like, however long Boone has been there to ruin things.
Yeah, what's interesting about Aaron Boone is if you believe he's riding the coattails off that one home run, I mean, he didn't manage any level of baseball. Now, I understand he played the game. And his father, he was in the game his whole life, right? His father played and was a manager. His whole family played, basically. But he never managed, I don't even know if he managed Little League or Babe Ruth or anything like that. And he just gets the keys to the Corvette.
Yeah,
right?
He should have started with, like, Miami or something, some small market team.
Not even like,
easily.
Yeah, not even like, the AAA Scranton or Trenton Thunder. I mean, here's the Yankees. Go,
Right. The best team ever.
Yeah,
Here it is.
Yeah, here you go. Unbelievable. Fair. So, and this is, we brought Joe on, and if you don't know Joe Clausey, went to high school. Are you a high school principal?
Yes.
Okay, so a high school principal out in California, and we kind of wanted to talk the rest of the show about, the transgender athlete and the Title IX, because that seems to be an interesting topic, and it kind of blends into sports with the transgender scholastic athlete. So I kind of wanted to touch on it because I see a lot of posts about it, and one thing that I don't want people to think, and I think this is kind of where people kind of they don't really want to like kind of peel back the layers and kind of research a little bit. I think they just think it's going to be, well, that boy is going to just play women's sports, right? They're going to put a wig on him and he's going to play girls' sports. And I think that a lot of people, I really honestly think that's what they think it's going to be. Like, you ever see the movie Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Right, takes the stepson and he's like, oh, I got to win this soccer team. My boss has a soccer team and I'm coaching it, so I'm going to have him put a wig on and play girls' soccer. And what's unfortunate is I think that's kind of the view, and it's just absurd. That kind of view on the surface. So
it is. It's super shallow, Nick. I mean, there's no two ways about it. When you think of it from that perspective, I mean, you got to ask yourself, if you're a boy, are you going to play on a girls' team? I just don't see many boys or males rather saying, "Yeah, man, sign me up."
Yeah,
I think I could make that happen. I see success here in one way, shape, or form or another. I just don't see that, And in the research that I did, I came across some wild medical documentation. And that might be the only, although it seems like they're disproving it, that might be the only reason why I could see there is somewhat of an argument here. And that's, if you're taking hormones, which I think is a part of that process, if you're going through the actual gender change, there's a chemical imbalance that you're creating inside of your body based on, the addition of these hormones. And so, you might think to yourself, well, does that person now have some sort of like performance enhancing drug inside of them, which is a wild take in itself to even consider. But nonetheless, something that I think people are just reaching and scratching for perspective in trying to fight against, what we've always seen, because, sports are huge in high school. They were big where we grew up. They're big in most comprehensive sites. And they mean the world to the athletes that participate in them. But I think, it's kind of like when I first learned about gender neutral bathrooms, and in my school, we did not have gender neutral bathrooms prior to, and I was like, well, all right. I thought about it from coming out of New York City where, the vast population in the last school that I was in New York City had a really high percentage of a gay population in that school. And so it was kind of like, all right, well, I'm not dealing with just like a handful of kids, Nick. I'm talking about like 100 kids
yeah,
out of a 400 kid school. So it's like, holy cow, I got to find, some place for these kids to use the facilities and feel okay and safe. And that's really like our main goal, right? So if everybody's safe, then I can think about how to teach them and create an educational system for them to learn in. And so since safety was not, at the forefront of the students who were gay and identified with different genders, or they were going through that transition, I mean, I tried to look at it from their perspective and was like, wow, that must really stink. Let me try to figure out how to make them more safe and welcome and everybody's different. So let me see how we can ride this wave. And we created some gender neutral bathrooms. Now here in California, you got to have them in every facility. I think almost every school now has to have them available. And so it's just with the changing of the times, Yeah. So we're adapting and adjusting and trying to make people feel welcome.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have this huge influx of boys just saying, "Hey, I want to play female sports," just to do it, right? Like, and I really highly doubt anybody's going to just be a transgender athlete to play sports, right? So I think this fear of it's going to overtake and be this huge kind of concern, I think it's not feasible. It's not realistic. Yeah. And if you have a transgender athlete, you're
saying the prevalence is going to be low.
Correct.
People should wait and see. There was a lot of media response, and social media response was not good from what I saw. I hope that's not a reflection of the friends I have on Facebook, but overall there was a lot of negativity associated with it, and I can understand the argument that it's not a level playing field if you have a young man on the field in certain sports with young ladies, and there's a biological difference, and on its face, your gut reaction is that's not fair, and there's not a level playing field, and so they shouldn't be on the field. Some folks have said, well, look, it's not going to be that prevalent, and so don't worry about it, and Joe, you mentioned the use of hormone therapy, and so if you have a young man who's taking estrogen, then arguably that might be the way the playing field is leveled. And I have not read the science. You said you were reading it, starting to read it, so I can understand that. But at this point, when people's gut reaction or knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, there's not a level playing field here, so it shouldn't be done. I don't have the argument against it. How is the field level? And you're a school principal, and is this trickling down to the public schools now, where you are?
Absolutely. I mean, and Kenny, you bring up a great point. If you're a parent of a kid who's participating on this team, and then all of a sudden, you might fear for their safety if the sport might include contact or whatever. I can see where parents are coming from as well. The sensitivity of that conversation is extreme, and I do think social media can be predominantly negative about it, but it's also adapting to change, because at the end of the day, especially at the high school level, I mean, what are we talking about here? We're talking about wins. Are we trying to field the best team?
I think they're talking about you have parents you have parents and kids. Well, let's just talk about the players. There are players who have intentions of going to college and playing school ball, whatever sport it might be, and there's a small percentage of kids that are going to play ball in college. I shouldn't say ball, play sports in college, and those are the ones that don't want to see their spot on a roster taken away in an unfair manner. And so how do you objectively explain to them that their child's spot on the roster is not being taken away in an unfair manner? What would you say? Because I don't think it's about, I'm not saying you said this, I don't think it should be about sensitivity. I think it should be about an even playing field.
Yeah, my answer to you immediately was the tryout process for that team should really, like it usually intends to do, I suppose, weed out those who just need to be cut, that aren't of the caliber type of player that the coach is looking for. And so that in itself also could deflate your argument or really inflate it, depending on how you want to look at it. Because you could say, well, this kid used to be a boy and now is identifying with a female and it's going that route and is definitely going to outperform, might be quicker, stronger, whatever it is, than the rest of the females that are on the team. And so if your daughter ends up getting bumped because this person is now a member of the team, you have to think to yourself, well, gosh, is that fair? And it goes to the trial process, really weeding out those that weren't the best in the coach's views.
How about the girl? How about the young girl who plays and is taking hormone therapy? I mentioned that the young man might be taking hormone therapy in the form of estrogen, but what about the young lady who's taking testosterone? Now,
right.
Now some folks would associate that with steroids, and now you have a player taking a drug that would otherwise have been banned to all players. And now even the young woman playing is considered to have, she's got one step ahead of the boys on the team. To some folks, I'm just trying to make out both sides of the argument.
Well, you do have, though. There's, what's the science behind it, right? So if you're going to look at, are you just looking at, well, what do you identify as, I guess for lack of a better term, mentally? And then what you are biologically. And if you start to take, estrogen or suppressing your testosterone, that's fine. But is there other science around that, right? So, I support gay and transgender LGBTQ rights. Who is anybody? Why is it anybody's concern to tell somebody what they can and can't do, should or shouldn't do, based on your beliefs? I mean, that's insane to me. But if we have a situation where you have just an ability, just a natural physical strength, right? I think you that's where you start to have that's where people have a real issue. If you have, a little bit of a gain physically, right? So, men have bigger bone density, they have larger lungs, they have bigger hearts, they can pump blood and oxygen through the body quicker, right? And that's a huge advantage to the male transitioning to a female.
Can I just say you said that with such authority? I believed you.
I did some show prep. All right. Can a man read a book or something?
Wow.
All right. What do you think I was doing on the treadmill? I was researching. Right. So
Nick says men have stronger lungs, and bigger hearts.
Yeah. Well, do you know?
Brain.
Well, do you know when Lance Armstrong, one of the doping things, one of the parts of the doping scandal was they were taking out blood and putting in higher oxygenated blood. So when they were going through the mountain stages, they could just fly through those mountain stages because they had higher oxygen levels in their blood.
When were they doing that in relation to the game?
Huh?
In relation to the race, when were they doing that?
They were doing it at night. They would go back to the room and just put needles in and take blood out and put new higher oxygenated blood in.
Is that cheating? Doesn't sound like cheating.
Apparently,
it's just changing their blood.
I know, but now men have that naturally over women. It's not. It's just biological, right? So is that maybe that's where the problem is? What's your opinion on that?
I mean, what your point really is are you able to look past, the reality of these people going through this gender change and they're identifying with the opposite gender of what they currently were. And like that's who that person is. And we don't see them as, going on to that, into the new gender. We just associate them with who they were and kind of hang on to that. And so I think it to your credit before, it's really insane that these people weigh in with their opinions on whether or not these people should be allowed. Now, is it fair during the actual change itself? Probably not. But when the change is over, maybe those athletes can then be eligible or something along those lines. I could see that maybe down the road being legislation that's passed or to allow athletes participate at an Olympic level. It's like you said, like, does their opinion really matter? And when Kenny, when you were bringing up all the negativity that you found on social media, I mean, it's tough when the parents are looking at me and they're telling me, you know, that this is ridiculous and boys should use boys' restrooms and girls should use girls' restrooms. At the same time, you know, I'm interacting with these kids or these young adults throughout the course of the day, knowing and believing and seeing what they're going through and being like, wow, like, they really, you know, this is them. This is who they are. And that deep-rooted understanding triumphs over that, right?
And I think there's a distinct difference. I mean, I'll bring in my personal opinion on this. I might as well take a stand on an issue. And I think there's a distinct difference between the mental health aspect and gender identification that a person is experiencing. I don't have a problem with, not that no one should care what I think, okay? But I don't have a problem with the issue of the bathrooms and the entire issue of the mental health. I'm just trying to find a way to justify this Title IX entitlement to allow the transgender person to play in the opposite sex sport. I just don't see it. I can't figure out a way to objectively justify it because I'm not looking at it as a mental health issue or a gender identification issue. I'm just looking at it as what's fair.
Well, you're talking about competing, right? You're talking about competing, you know, against each other. And if you have, if everything is level, then nobody should have a problem, right?
Well,
as far as the physical nature of it, right?
Well, I don't know if I'm understanding you correctly because I'll use an example. You know, Venus and Serena Williams dominated tennis, still dominate tennis. They're in better physical shape, or I should say, they at a time with their prime, they were in better physical shape than the other women with whom they were playing. And some folks didn't like that, but I felt there was nothing wrong with that. They're women playing against women, and they were awesome. This is different. This is
yes, but I just mean if a transgender, would it be a transgender female?
I don't know. I think so I
don't want to get this wrong because I don't want
a man identifying as a woman.
Okay. So if
that person is transgender.
Yes, so if they're transitioning and they want to compete, I think as long as they don't have some sort of physical advantage, right? Like we talked about.
Well,
right?
at its baseline, you're going to argue that the young man who's transitioning to be a woman, because he's a man biologically, he is at a higher level physically. You said so in the comparison you made.
Okay, so let's.
So I don't know how you make it physical. How do you make it?
Okay, so let me just give you
a level playing field ever.
I don't know that, and that's I don't know if you can, but let me. So Oscar Pistorius.
And what Joe is talking about, again, I want to make sure I am completely empathetic to that circumstance of the mental health aspect of it, and that's of paramount importance. But I think that the sports issue is not part of the mental health discussion.
Correct. Nobody should be bullied, beat up, killed, right? Because of either you're a transgender or any kind of LGBTQ person. If somebody does that, you're a heinous human being. We're just so everybody's clear, we're talking about this in the context of competitive sport.
Right, because if you start with the perspective of you're supposed to have an equal playing field, now go out there and play.
Yeah, and let me just bring this up real quick. So we know who Oscar Pistorius is, right? Am I saying that right? He was the Olympic runner that had no legs.
Yeah.
Now
he was Blade Runner, isn't that what they call him?
Yes, he's now in prison because he killed his wife.
Correct.
Anyway,
right.
There was a lot of people that said he should not compete in the Olympics, right? Because he went through the Paralympics and he wanted to compete in the regular Olympics, right? Now, what this guy has overcome having no legs is a great story on the side. A lot of people said he shouldn't be able to compete because when they did studies of his the fibers in the blades, I guess we'll call them, it was 15%. He had to expel 15% less energy to make those go.
If that's true,
right.
I would have been against him playing against
if he would have had
disabled individuals.
Then if he would have had real legs. So people were saying, he shouldn't be able to do this because
was he allowed to play?
Yes, he was allowed to be in the Olympics. I didn't really even have a problem with that. Here's what I was actually against.
If it wasn't a level playing field, I'd be against it.
I said he should not be able to compete not because of the science behind the blades or the prosthetics. It was because he could not fall down from a cramp in his calf. Another runner in lane 3 could get a cramp in his calf and the race is over for him.
I think that's a pretty interesting.
Now, I was called a lunatic, and I was called a lunatic for that stance by some people.
Why?
No, well, because you want to know why?
He's less likely to be injured.
And we go back to the social media where people just say shit because there's no consequences for their words via keyboard. But I think my thing was, look, if his knee's not going to give out, he's not going to fall down. He's not going to get a cramp in his calf. I mean, we've seen there's a viral video of an Olympic sprinter falls down, he gets a cramp, or he blows his calf out, and his father runs onto the track and carries him across the finish line. It's great. It's a great story. It's like heart wrenching, right? But he has to me that's an unfair advantage, right? Does that make sense to anybody?
I think it does.
I can see that. No, I can see that.
I think only you could think of that, Nick. But I do.
You're welcome, everybody.
It's a fair point.
It's a pretty gnarly point, I gotta say.
I never thought of that.
That never came across my mind. But nonetheless, still a comparison to just an unfair, but then again, Nick, like is if you want to talk about Pistorius, right? You're talking about the Olympic level athletes. Is any other country compared fairly to the United States when we invest more heavily than most in winning? And so now you have like this financial aspect of it. And so is it really that fair? Like when the bobsleds from Jamaica were participating in the Winter Olympics, I mean, I'm sure they weren't heavily funded. Like what was that? Cool Runnings, right? John Candy, old school John Candy. Like, they started from nothing. It was totally an unfair advantage for them or disadvantage for them. So, I hear what we're saying. I think at the end of the day, like the point I was trying to make before was, what are we talking about at the high school level? Are we talking about winning, or are we talking about the experience, the participation, the learning, and if the kid does get cut because there's a transgender, formerly male, now associating with the female gender on the team and makes the team, and your daughter gets cut, well, your daughter was probably the last one to make the team then. And so how much would she play? How much would that experience really be of value to her? And so there is a little bit there that you can kind of see both sides of the equation with regards to is that fair?
I'll just play devil's advocate. I'll play devil's advocate. Some folks would say even the last kid on the team deserved to have the level playing field. No child left behind, right? So it's not about the winning of the team per se.
Right.
And it's also not about the prevalence. I'm just going, none of the kids should be subjected to an uneven playing field. Now, putting that aside, I agree with everything you said, Joe. I agree with everything you said, but there's that other side of the coin, which is if you're that one kid that was excluded because you were the last best on the team, right? Not the worst, the last best.
Yeah.
You lost out because you didn't have an even playing field. So that's not fair to that.
Yeah, but that's like, right, in the NCAA, they pick 64 teams, right? And then you have the bubble teams that don't make it, and they're complaining. And you're like, you were like the 66th best in the country.
Yeah,
like,
but they were boys playing against boys.
I know. I'm just trying to use an analogy.
Yeah,
terrible analogy, apparently, by the devil's advocate.
No, not a terrible analogy. Dude, so we've been going for an hour. Listen, Joe, I want to thank you for coming on board tonight. I think this was probably
I have another question. I'm cutting you off. Can I have another question?
I'm not saying it's ending now. We're ending soon. But this was a pretty smooth show tonight.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah.
Don't get off yet.
When Nick said to me we're going to do transgender, I was like, hey, man, that's a nice start. I mean, that's a heavy one, throwing me right into the fire. But definitely appreciate being on the show. You guys are awesome.
Hang on.
So
Nick's not done.
Okay.
As a principal, if you had a transgender athlete, it would have to be difficult because of, how are the teammates going to perceive that person on the team, right? In the locker room, is there going to be bullying? How are the parents of the other kids on the team going to deal with that and come to you? And then when you're competing against other teams at meets, track meets, or games, right? Like now, are you, you're gonna have to put in like heightened security measures and stuff like that. Like, is that it just seems like it would just be so unfortunate for somebody to have to go through that, in 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I'm not talking about you. It's not bad for you. I'm just saying for the athlete, for the transgender athlete to have to worry about, walking to the bus and getting jumped, or getting on the bus and getting jumped by their own teammates.
It's funny, Nick. As you were asking that question, I was thinking to myself, when you're on a team, usually there's at the start, right? Any team that you guys participate on, there's a little bit of a rough start. Everybody gets to know each other. There's some people that like some people, some that don't. You have that, but then you might lose a tough game or win a tough game, a close one, and it brings you together as a team. You start to understand the value of your teammates, and so that aspect I wouldn't be too concerned with. Going, finding a comfortable place for that person to change. Locker rooms are supposed to adhere to ADA regulations so that everybody is given their equal privacy and safety throughout that process. And so, gone are the days of like that bar urinal where everybody just walks up to the thing and pees in the same thing. That's just not. I
didn't do that. I didn't do that anyway.
You
were shy?
Yeah, there's no way.
Nick, did you get stage fright?
Huh?
You got stage fright at the trough?
I stage fright or just lack of confidence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, everything. All of it at once.
We're going to have to bring Amy in now.
Yeah.
Bring in the wife.
But
let's talk about your confidence.
The worst part in that question is the parents. And like Kenny, like you were finding on social media, I mean, the parents and their opinions, when they disagree, wherever that disagreement stems from and the root of it lies, when it's a disagreement and they're going to be vocal about it, that's the toughest part about this, because you just want them to understand, well, this person is going through something in their life and we're trying to support that. And they're finding who they are, and you don't want to not allow that to take place, because it's not like somebody goes 1 week, like Caitlyn Jenner is not going to come back as Bruce Jenner, right? Like I highly doubt that we'll ever see Bruce Jenner again, right? Like once you go that route, like that's it. That's your decision. You're all in. Like that's who you are.
And that's something you thought about for a while, right? You just don't wake up. Yeah. I mean, that's something that and it's been weighing on, and it's been weighing on somebody like that for decades.
Right. And so you can't, when you take that out of the equation and you just kind of think, well, I want to win or I want my kid to participate. This person shouldn't be allowed. You're negating that entire process and taking away that entire right. And that's where I think, there's only states like in, Connecticut and Idaho that are really banning this process completely. And I think that with time that'll all go away. And it'll start to become common practice in all sports on all levels. It's just right now, because it's different and we're going through that change, it's very controversial, it's very new, and it's not fondly looked upon from a number of different angles, regardless to what state you live in or what your beliefs are. So it's controversial to say the least. And I think as a high school principal, it's just always the principal's job to make the kids feel safe, to make them feel welcome, to support who they are, as long as they're being good model citizens in society, and that's really all we try to push for. Everything else that wins and all that jazz that comes out, that's all extra. Like you said, it is the parents though that.
But the parents are going to be the parents are going to be the worst part. Well,
hey Joe, what's the app on your photo? The photo that you gave to Nick for your headshot. What app did you use to make that into a cartoon?
Clip. The the iPhone 12 came with iOS 13, I think it was, and it came with that app Clip.
Spell that.
And it CLIPS.
All right, I'll take a look, because I have that. I'll see if I can do that with other photos. I thought that was really cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I think and this is another topic for another show. The parents are going to be the biggest wild card, right, going into a situation like that, because being around travel sports and coaching, I've seen it firsthand at facilities where, it's just the yelling, the screaming, the parents yelling at umpires, the parents yelling at coaches, the parents yelling at other coaches, every little thing. I mean, this past fall we had a 12U girls softball tournament, and a parent actually gave a 12-year-old a blowtorch to bring in the dugout to heat up the barrels of the bat. A bunch of 12-year-olds with a blowtorch in the dugout, heating up barrels of a bat to get a competitive advantage in a fall tournament.
Let's leave that story for the next show.
I had a parent coach threatened to murder me on the field, and the wife ran up behind me during a 10U girls softball tournament.
That's a great teaser.
Awesome.
Right. So that's
awesome.
and that's and that's not even really, that's just softball. I mean, and it's just, I just wish adults and parents would maybe just sit back, kind of think, and peel back the layers than just saying that's a boy competing with girls. That's my son playing girls basketball. It's not fair. It's crazy. Just everybody relax and take a breath and maybe research a little bit and have the open discussion, right? Because I think having the open, honest discussion is what will, information might help change somebody's mind, or it gives them a different perspective to look at it from, right? And even though that conversation might be uncomfortable to have, I think it's still good to have. And if you're really that uncomfortable having it, I would say that's a you problem, not a me problem, right? To have open dialogue, you got to have it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
So
Absolutely.
We're all in agreement, Nick.
Yeah, Joe, we're going to wrap this up. Any parting words? You got to watch baseball this year. You got to get back in.
I mean, I'm watching your show. You made me watch football these past 2 weekends, which was phenomenal. And I'm back in it. I'm starting to get it a little bit. So I hear you. I'll probably watch it. I'm on the fence.
No,
really
get off the fence.
In your court.
Get off the fence. Get off the fence. No, because here's
your court. You got to convince me. I can't just turn it back on. I got to be convinced.
Oh, let me tell you what. If you start watching, it's back on, and then you're going to come on, and we're just going to yell at each other about the Yankees Red Sox. Then that's going to happen. So you have to get. Look, I don't want to tell anybody what to do or how to feel or how to live their life.
I think you should.
But
This
you
is
need
your
to start.
opportunity.
You need to get off the fence and watch some baseball. All right.
Sounds good, you guys. I'm in.
All right, Joe.
Nice talking to you guys.
Thanks for calling in, bud.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Absolutely. See you.
They say play us out, Nick.
Well, hold on a second. That was great, right?
Listen, we're not going to relive it.
No, I think that was I'll share this. We'll share this video. Would like everybody to subscribe to the New York Nick YouTube channel, because I'm going to be putting up, and we will be putting up exclusive content just on the YouTube channel at the New York Nick. I want to thank Joe Clausey, everybody that commented, Brian Lindhurst, a bunch of people had some great comments. Mike Raposa. I want to thank Marty Blum. Marty Blum called in.
Yeah.
But Marty
him on.
Blum called in when we already had the guest on. So, Marty, if you want, we'll get you in next week. If you want to talk Rangers, I don't know if you want to talk Rangers because they're playing like shit. But listen, comment, call in. Kenny. Hold on a second. All right, stop with the damn crickets. All right, I think this is it here.
Play us out.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
It's black and white.